Welcome to the Brand Clarity Podcast, hosted by Visions to Images and Susie Liberatore. The Brand Clarity Podcast highlights several different topics, including entrepreneurship, franchises, and digital marketing trends. Visions to Images helps corporations and franchises with their branding, website, paid advertising, and digital marketing. Hello, everybody. Today I have on the podcast Don Schin, and he is the founder and CEO of Franchise Building Expert. I enjoy talking with him, and I always love kind of having the different varieties of learning how franchising works as far as the sales and development pieces, whereas we do the marketing. So I love how we can all connect and collaborate. Welcome, Don. How are you?
Thanks, Susie. Doing well. Busy week, and the weather where I live, the weather is transitioning to fall, so that's always a good time.
Yes, as long as we don't get winter too soon, I'm okay with that. Perfect. So tell us a little bit about how you got started. I mean, your company's been in business for about 8 years or so. What made you get into this company, business, entrepreneur mind shift?
Yeah, well, I'll go back a little bit even further than the 8 years. So I had been in the corporate world for 23 years, climbing the corporate ladder, and eventually one of the walls that I put the ladder up on, I realized when I got to the top it was the wrong wall. Long story short, after surviving an acquisition, a multi-billion-dollar acquisition, I just looked around and I'm just not in the right place anymore. Mm-hmm. So back about another 23 years ago, I stepped out and I actually became a franchise owner. I came on board with a brand that was new. It was a new industry. It was a new brand to America, and so I was the very first franchisee for that company, and I did pretty much everything you can do with them. I was a master franchisee, which is unique. I was a multi-unit owner, which is unique. And eventually it very successfully created an asset that had value, and I sold it, only to be called back several years later on a contract basis to be a CEO, one of 4 global CEOs to the owner. And so I've worn like really every hat in franchising. But when I sold my territories, so to speak, and my development rights and my business back 8 years ago, that's when I established Franchise Building Expert. And we've done a variety of different things. As I said, I've done some contract CEO work, and we do some outsourced sales work. We're really in the last year really trying to develop a really different presentation into the marketplace, a really different offering into the marketplace. So even though you're absolutely right. 8 years ago, Franchise Building Expert was launched. Today, we're really trying to be a very, very different company. We're trying to bring a lot of professionalism and integrity into the marketplace. We really want to make a difference, whether it's through our training other people to do it, whether it's us doing it ourselves. We really want to be sure that people have a great experience when they look at franchising, they get into the right franchises. So that's how I got started up to Franchise Building Expert, and that's kind of what we're trying to do now.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's great. I know the franchise industry can be tough for many reasons. Obviously, people, they want to make sure they get into the right franchise because it is a career. It is an investment, right? And making sure that the franchisor has everything set in stone so they can have their franchisees be successful. So what do you do to help these people be successful?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. We're going all the way back to before the transaction ever happened. So our niche, our expertise is in franchise sales, franchise development, the ability to nurture a lead, the ability to create relationships quickly, the ability to ascertain somebody's background and their skill sets and what's transferable. And then also in one segment of our company, we match them to brands that we have relationships with. And so what we're really focused on is that transaction being a good one, whether we're doing it and doing the matching, or whether we're working with a franchisor who wants people to join their franchise. We want to help them get the right franchisees for their brand. So we go all the way back in from a training capacity, a coaching capacity, or all the way my associates can actually do the matching. But we're just focused on being sure people are professional. They know the right questions to ask. They know how to get emotional with people looking at buying the franchise. They dig into the big why somebody wants to do this. Just being sure that we're just working hard in 3 or 4 different ways to be sure that people get into the right business. And I'm afraid that it's done poorly sometimes, which then turns people off. So many people are not coming into entrepreneurship through franchising because they've had such a bad experience at first transactional point. So we're working all the way back to there to try to get them into the right place, have a great experience. And then when they decide on whatever brand they go, well, then it's up to the franchisor to take them from there.
No, that's great. And so you work with over 400 brands, correct?
We have two different things we do, and several different things, but the 2 core things we do, we can do what's called brokering or consulting, which is a matching process. And we're part of a large national organization that we have relationships then through them of about 400 brands. We also have what we call private clients. So we'll have some people that are not in that organization, but we have good relationships with them. We have vetted them. So they're not in the organization, so they haven't been vetted by that organization, but we've vetted them. Sure. We align with these private clients ethically, value-wise, personality-wise. We align with them. And so we have a comfort level introducing some people to those brands. So we have kind of 2 sets of opportunities: our private clients or our larger national organization that we're a part of.
Great. What is your biggest struggle that you see in the franchise industry when it comes to trying to franchise?
So someone has a business and they think that franchising is the right way to do it. They have to have the right understanding of what franchising is going to do for them. I am shocked. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you, but I've literally talked to countless number of people that had already started as a franchise, and their comments to me were, our own, let's say, corporate store wasn't doing that well, so we thought franchising was the way for us to make money, and that was just horrible. I tell you, I can count, at least 4 or 5 people over the years that was the conversation. So I think they've got to understand their business needs to be wildly profitable, because you're gonna, when you sell that model, that concept to someone else to do as a franchisee, you're gonna heap on top of it fees, rightfully so, but they've got to make a living and be pretty profitable as well. So I think that's one piece, Susie. The other piece I'd answer the question as is that a lot of people getting into franchising, turning their business into a franchise, they don't realize that franchising is something you really have to learn. It's like another business. It is. And so a lot of times they're not recognizing that, and they actually try to operate both businesses. And they don't learn how to operate the franchise. So it's just, they've got to go into this understanding they need to be wildly profitable. Plus, they need to either hire the help or they need to really do their learning on how to be a franchisor.
Hey there, I want to interrupt this episode with a quick message. If you're listening to this podcast episode and want to learn about branding your franchise or small business, then go to brandingbridge.com. That's branding-bridge.com.
I've seen this instance in a couple of ways as well, where somebody they have multiple corporate locations and they're trying to manage all of that. And then they're also trying to do the fran dev, selling them to the franchisees. And they have somewhat of a team, but it's just they're not fully invested in the franchise because they're still doing all the day-to-day work in the corporate locations, even though they have admin people. But you know how it is as an owner, that if you're all in, they're going to bug you and come to you, where if you want to build that franchise, you kind of have to take away from this piece in order to grow this piece if this one's profitable.
Yep. I had a great conversation it was yesterday or the day before, it was this week, where the lady, rightfully so, she started her own business, ran it for about 10 years. She started to franchise it. She has her first franchisee, and she's just recognized what we're talking about. And she actually said to me, I need to get out of my corporate store. And so that I can be the franchisor, so I can help my franchisee. And then next year we want to sell 5 or 6 new ones. And I'm there. You are brilliant. You know, it is music to my ears, because that's what most people don't do.
Absolutely.
The other challenge, no matter the size of the franchise, and it's not every franchise, but I've been in this business 23 years, and from time to time, lead generation marketing is still a challenge. You know, I shake my head. I work with a brand that just celebrated their 30th year. They have 1,500 units around the world, and they're having a year where they're just struggling with selling franchises, and they're experimenting with, Facebook and this and that, but they just can't seem to get consistent and decent leads coming through. What you do is amazing, because lead generation is continues to be a challenge. It just hasn't gone away. I often, when people ask me about lead generation, I use a graphic of I guess a bad graphic nowadays, but it's a silver bullet. And because I've always used the phrase, there's no silver bullets in lead generation. There's no, my future daughter-in-law loves Disney World, and I'm there. There's no pixie dust for lead generation.
Go. That's perfect, because that was going to be the next topic. So you read my mind. Yeah. So as far as marketing goes, and I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying a little bit ago, is you have to look at marketing as 2 different components, right? The franchisees, corporate locations, and then the franchisor, however you want to decide on that. But it's so important, like you were just saying, like you can't be in both at the same time for your sales and development and stuff. It's the same is true with marketing, right? Like we market both targets in that sense, but the owner cannot have so much hands-on in both capacities, because what ends up happening is there's just so much happening. And that's why like sometimes it's good to have somebody who can be a marketing specialist, admin, whatever, something to that effect. What have you found personally that has been most beneficial for your marketing or any franchise marketing that you've experienced?
I want to emphasize what you just said about the marketing to help the franchisees versus the marketing to recruit. And a lot of franchisors miss that first piece about helping their franchisees. So that's critical. Anybody thinking of turning their business into a franchise, they have to recognize, how did you market? How did you market to make your own business wildly profitable? You need to duplicate that or work with someone who knows how to do that. I teach utilization of multiple marketing strategies. So in a course that I created, I have 13 individual lead generation strategies. The ones that I think are working really, really well. LinkedIn is working well for us. The reason I say that is many, many years ago, we used to use the resume boards, Monster, Career Builder. Yes. And I still think there are some companies doing that where you search, we just call harvest resumes based on a search criteria. But I think LinkedIn, in essence, is kind of the modernized resume board, because you could go in and search any kind of person that you want to go find. Absolutely. But what's important then is to systematize your use of LinkedIn. That's what we've done pretty well. So we use a legal software system. It's not scraping data, but it's a sequencing system that partners really, really well with LinkedIn. And then once you get connected with them, then you can do other things. We can go to a Susie and say, okay, here's my database now. I've got all of these email contacts that I've made, but I love LinkedIn for that reason. You can search, you can really target in on geographically, backgrounds, types of experiences. We do a lot of things right now. We're testing and measuring selling a franchise to an existing franchisee, but it's a business that has the same target market, whereby they could co-brand. And so again, you can search, if you want to look for a lawn care company, you can search all the lawn care companies on LinkedIn, all the owners or whatever of the LinkedIn or of the lawn care companies, and then pitch them additional revenue streams, passive income, co-marketing, co-branding, et cetera, et cetera. So I love LinkedIn. If you're a franchisor, I also like brokers, the broker world, the consulting world. It's not great for emerging brands, and it's not for the faint of heart. You really, with brokers and consultants, you really have to create a relationship with them. You have to build credibility. They want to know when they pass you a referral that you can close the deal. And so usually emerging brands can't. They don't project that kind of confidence, and they don't have a good enough story, et cetera, et cetera. So it's harder for emerging brands to go into these broker organizations. But if you've got 25 to 50 units or more, I think the broker, and you've got the time to build the relationships, it'll probably take you 4 to 6 months before you get quality leads from the brokers. But I've found that to be, my conversion rates are extremely high on leads from consultants when I was the franchisor. I love kind of informational webinars. We've done a good job of attracting leads. You don't put it out there, hey, find out about my franchise, because somebody could care less. You put out there, I'm doing an event on franchising versus starting a business yourself, or do a webinar on characteristics of successful entrepreneurs, something that's fairly general and will attract people in. But then obviously at the end of your webinar, you talk about your own brand. We've been pretty successful doing that as well.
Yes, I love, and I was just actually in the works of creating my next webinar too, because it works for so many different people. Instead of sitting there just messaging and building connections, you say, hey, do you want to come and just check this webinar out? It's about XYZ, and it works so well. I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the most powerful lead generation tools ever. So I'm hands down with you on that. Sometimes I get some leads from like Facebook, but LinkedIn is really powerful. You can connect with so many people. So I'm definitely going to have to check out your course as well to see what other lead generation tools you use, because I'm sure we probably use similar ones. I've kind of structured it now where I had one main course for about a year, and I've had so many people ask me for segments of it, or I shouldn't say ask me as much as I've seen the demand for pieces. So that's actually one we're just literally launching this month. I just call them now mini courses. One of them is going to be on lead generation. A couple of them are on sales. One is going to be on how to buy a franchise, for people that are buying, looking to buy, just to get educated, to become an educated consumer before you dive into the world of, thousands of options. So amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this great stuff. If somebody wants to learn more about you or connect with you, how can they do that? Yeah, probably best is to just go to the contact form on our website, which is franchisebuildingexpert.com, expert singular, because at the time I started the company, I was by myself. Sure. So it's franchisebuildingexpert.com, and just fill out the form. You can also link with me, on LinkedIn. That's another way to just connect. I have tons of extra resources on my LinkedIn profile, so people can start learning or checking things out. But DONSCHIN, that search on LinkedIn, and people will find me as well. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening in on today's Brand Clarity episode with Susie Liberatore. 2 things. First and foremost, please, if you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave some positive reviews. Also, don't forget to sign up for Stop Sending Your Customers to the Competition and get my insider secrets to compelling branding that converts. You can find that at branding-bridge.com. It's a free workbook for you to check out right now, all of the branding techniques and strategies that I use for my paying clients.